What? Ow! I'm coming down! I'm coming down! There I am! Alright, we're recording now. Hey everybody, Rebel here, and welcome to Infinity Wars. This will hopefully be the first in a long line of videos I'll be doing about how to actually play the game. My first video as a sort of testing the waters actually got a fairly positive result, both from the YouTube audience of you guys watching it, as well as some people from the Infinity Wars community giving it a look and supporting me. They gave me some thumbs up, so I've decided to start making some follow-up ones to try and introduce more people into the game, and so that when you hit the game, you aren't as lost as some people that I've come to see. To do that, though, this is all going to be live commentary, and you should be able to see my mouse now. At least that's what Bandicam's telling me that you can, so I'm going to go for that. Now, as much as I would love to go into a real game and try to explain everything that happened on the fly, I know I'm going to forget it all, so let's start out by going to a bot game. The game, this thing, went to the camping on accident. We have the option to play against bots that represent every single faction. Or, most of them at least. The Warpath, Flame Dawn, the Cult of Aurora, Genesis Industries, Descendants of the Dragons, best faction IMO, in my opinion, and Puffy the Goldfish. Do not let this guy fool you. Even that little description of him, he can beat you. An AI that beats nothing can beat you. Think about that for a second, I'll let you guys, in the future, try to figure out what I actually mean by that. But in the meantime, I'm gonna pick my deck of the Aspirants. Those of you who play Infinity Wars will know what I'm doing, and those of you who don't, welcome. You're gonna be lost for a bit, unfortunately, but when you know what I'm talking about, you'll feel right at home. Let's get to playing. The first thing I would hope that for all people to see from the game is when you jump into a match. I want to try to list off the bullet points of it, or so to say, but I don't have much at hand, but I do have Notepad open on my second monitor, so I will be going off of what I have here to list to you guys. The first thing I would want to show you guys what's going on about is, quite frankly, priority. Several times in the game chat, I would hear people wondering, how does the game know whose cards go first, whose effects goes first? I mean, sure, both in this game turns happen simultaneously, but how do we know which effects takes effect first, even though we both are acting at the same time? The answer to this is in the top of the game. You see how my name is in green letters, fancy, and the Genesis bot, his letters are in plain white. This is not because I'm facing a bot, but actually because I have priority this turn. What this means is that any effects I play, for example, if I were to stumble a creature, exhaust, or to rift to the old world anything, my effects will happen first, before the opponents do. Not saying that my cards will all happen and then I attack, and then his cards will all happen and then attack, but in every single phase, my cards will happen first. The next thing I would want to touch on is resources. Obviously, I've mentioned a couple of things in my previous episode, but I will be trading through them as they come up. The last one was meant as a simple touch in the water. This is where I'm actually going to be trying to talk about everything. With resources, as you see, 1 out of 1. 1 out of 1. Something to take note is that you can see your opponent's resources as they actively have them. Not as they're using them, or what's left over, I believe, but as they're getting them and losing them. If your opponent plays an assassinate, you will see them losing resources right here. As well as if they go to the trading post and they pay 9 to increase by 1, you will notice it up here. It is very important to take note of this because several opponents are crafty, in that they will often try to secretly increase their resources while their opponent isn't knowing. The game just gives you the option to see this right here, so if the opponent throws a calamity on you and you wonder when he did that, he probably did it a turn ago, and you did not prepare for it because you did not notice the resource counter. The next thing is actually also right next to it, actually. This number right here, 5, with the little darkened card. That's actually how many cards are in your hand and your opponent's hand. Both of you can see who has how many cards, just like you would in any other TCG, and you can adjust your plan accordingly to see who has the upper hand. No pun intended. With this, you can see is your opponent ready to go all in with their entire assault, with their entire hand going at you, as I probably would if I had a good hand. Or if you see that they're actually on the ropes, you see they have nothing and they're grasping straws. The next thing that I'm going to try to go circular around here is the chat and action list. This is the chat. I was talking to someone, DHDYDB, he wanted to be on the YouTube video, so I guess here you are. Enjoy it while it lasts. But this is how you can communicate with your opponent, as well as the global chat, trade chat in general. By default, when you type anything in here, it will be sending the message directly to your opponent. With my opponent in this case being a bot, though, I actually have no idea. But this just means that if you were to type someone, like let's say my opponent is Genesis, if I were to type any message, the game would read it as that. The game will automatically put in the /W for whispering, in parentheses, the opponent's name, and then whatever message I give to them. With this though, there is a character limit. A relatively small one at that. So don't go typing an essay to your opponent. Not only are you wasting your time, but theirs as well. They're not even gonna get all of it. This isn't to say though that you are stuck to this. As with most other chats, you can type /global to go ahead and speak to everyone in the chat if you see a conversation going on that you want to take part in, or if you want /trade to go ahead and talk to the trade chat. Your text will appear in green, and they will all, anyone that's actively trying to find cards trading, they'll go ahead and find your message. Though if you want to talk to someone in particular, such as DHDYDB right there, I can type in /W and his name right there to manually tell the game I'm talking to him. The traditional command of /R to reply to someone does not work in game. You'll have to keep this in mind, because if you try to type that up in the beginning, while you're in here, it will just give up an error message. See? It won't autofill. Well, with that out of the way, let's go back. Next is the action list, actually, right under it. This will keep an archive of everything that happened in the order that it happened. So if you're wondering how he got that death ray on your creature that you thought was protected with an Angelify, here you will see whose priority it was by the actions that happened. If it was his priority, that death ray will have happened first, and you would have tried to Angelify a dead target, thus wasting your card. Next is the trading post. This little doodad right here. A thing to note though is that sometimes, every now and then, the game will glitch. This game is still in beta, so every now and then you will not be able to click this trading post. You'll have that little gray box right there, but when you click, there'll be nothing. As you can see, I can. But as a little tip, there are two ways to handle this glitch when and if it does happen to you. The first is to pop open the chat, and close it. This will either refresh the boundaries that the chat is, because it might have mistaken it to be covering it, thus you may not be able to click it, or you can press the X key, which will automatically bring this up. Now to actually get onto the trading post. The first thing that you will notice is that right here, shuffle hand into deck and draw a new hand, -1. This is a mulligan for those of you who do not know the actual term, and it's only available on the first turn of the game. Mind you, it doesn't mean that after I do this, it's all gone. I will not be able to use this action and it'll be done for. For the sake of showing you guys in this video, I will shuffle my hand. As you can see, I now have some new cards. I still have the Aspirant and the Rift of the Old World, but that's just luck on my part, it's terrible. And I have one less card. You can in kind, pay 3, pay 5, and pay 9. But there is one thing to note. If you notice, there is an undo button here. You feel you put something or you used up some resources you didn't want to, but go ahead and undo them. It will not penalize you for that. But the one thing to take note in is that there is no undo button for the trading post. Any actions done via the trading post, shuffling your hand, paying 3 to shuffle a card, paying 5 to draw a card, or paying 9 to increase the resources by 1, are final. They cannot be undone. Anything originating from the hand or from your command zone can be undone though. Because of the way the game is done, it's not actually having taken place yet. The game has to wait until you end turn for everything to happen properly. But with the trading post, it's done on your screen. It is done on that instant. You cannot undo that. For several exploits, mind you, that I would just keep undoing and shuffling until I got the best hand ever possible. Sure, I'd have less and less cards, but it'd be the best hand possible. The next thing that I would want to say, or still on it, is that from the command zone, not only are playing creature from the command zone and the hand undoable, but so are just abilities themselves. If you have a creature on the top, for example, let's look at his, I love the Immortal Tinkerer. If he wanted to buff any of the artificial creatures he had in play, he can activate that effect from the command zone and undo it with the undo button. Same with the Clue Constructor's sacrifice effect, as well as Agent Coil's, what's it called, and buffing himself effect. But to get on with the game and show you guys a bit more of this, we'll play it out there. We'll play it out as I would normally. I set up this deck entirely with what most starter people would have: a bunch of Flamed On Aspirants. Several experienced players are probably cursing at me right now. Keep it coming. We shall play our Flamed On Footman, I believe. Yep, that's the name. And we shall end the turn with the bot doing what he does. Nothing. This isn't because the bot's just AFK'd, but because Genesis does not have many 1/0 cost creatures. They do, but for all we know, the bot just didn't draw them. You know what? Give him some slack. We shall play our next creature, and again, to just example, you can bring it back. But another thing to take note of now is the zones: the defense, the assault, and the support zone. If you notice, some creatures that I play from my hand don't exactly stop in the assault zone or support zone. That's because of their effect, charge. If you ever find a card that has an effect that you are not quite sure of, or even what it does, it's simple. Mouse over it. The game has a very handy tooltip that will just enlighten you on what the effect does. For example, in this case, charge. Characters with a charge are moved directly to the assault zone when played. They do not have to take a pit stop here. And with that, it is worth noting, position is key. If for some reason the Genesis card did have a card with Vigilance or Haste to be put in the defense zone, my 7/7 creature here will attack first, followed by my Footman, thus making me lose 2 potential damage. But on the same coin though, it is worth noting that if he puts something that has more than 5 HP, he goes, doesn't kill it, and then I have to go, thus wasting all the damage, making positioning your characters in itself a bit of a strategy game. Same with defense. We shall keep on going. Non-ending drone. You know what? Needs more rush. Let's keep going. He buffs. He hits with the 5. And here we throw out our commander, the almighty Bromich. Very good commander, mind you, from the Flamed On faction. As the Flamed On theme comes into play, we march onward, dealing a very good amount of damage too. just for display's sake, I actually will pull back at the moment to show you guys what goes on with the priority function. For those still iffy about it, and we would make sure that he does not get in that much freeze damage on us. He plays with the Dragon Project, and buffs, and sacrifices. Oh my god, that actually became a bit of a threat. But now, as you see, the enemy Genesis, the bot, has his name in green. As I explained before with priority, all of his moves will go first. To show it in action, I will actually display right now Call of the Crusade, allowing me to create 3 mini aspirants. The only difference with these is they cannot be moved. By player hand, they cannot be moved out of the zone. That guy's gonna be a bit of an issue, but we shall venture forward. No fear from the Flame Dawn. We shall play our Call of the Crusade, and another aspirant just for safekeeping. As you see, he activates the Dragon Project to pay 4 to give it 35% completion first. Then, our Call of the Crusade takes effect. This can be used in very tricky ways to avoid such cards that are terrifying, such as Mass Death and Calamity, thus making your card effects happen afterwards, so such cards like Call of the Crusade will still have their potency even after all is said and done. We've beaten a bot. 500 XP to the victor, and 150 IP as well. We gave him a beating. Alright, that is the video on what goes on in the game. Your enemy and your resources, both of your hand sizes, the chat, the action list to tell you so you can keep in touch with the outside world of the game, the trading post, which you can and cannot, what's it called, trade, or I mixed things up right there. Undo button, which you can and cannot undo, especially with the trading post, as well as the shortcuts to avoid the trading post bug so you don't lose games that way. And well, that's it for this one. I'll see you guys in the next episode. How did he know I ended? Ugh.